He was like average looking dude, probably I'd say mid-40s, came in once a month.
A mid-looking guy that's in his mid-years, mid all around. It's always the mid ones that are fucking freaky as shit.
Yeah.
Actually, can you confirm it? These fucking boring ass looking men that are like, I want you to step on my balls in high heels.
Yeah.
This is Wild Yarns with Samara and Sheri.
Hey everyone, this is Wild Yarns, and today we've got an amazing special guest, Charlotte, who is also a dancer of the more spicy kind, and we are going to be going over basically everything to do with stripping life. So we're answering some questions, we've also got a few tales to tell, and I'm also going to be sharing like my perspective because I wasn't a dancer, but I was a house mum for about 2 years. So I have like a little bit of a different perspective, but yeah, it should be a really good episode.
I'm loving it.
I'm interested to hear about your house mom experiences.
Yeah,
because
so
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I was a house mum back in the day. I think I started when I was 19 as well. And everyone thought I was older because I think I presented as I was older. But like, and there were, so basically, I should probably explain what a house mum is to the people that are not in the industry. So basically, a house mum is like the back of the house and you look after all of the dancers at the club. So my roles were like doing hair, makeup, helping them get dressed, making sure that their like outfits were up to standard, basically just talking them through any situations, getting the new girls in, training them up on just like how the flow works, doing rosters, getting everyone to have their breaks at certain times, just, you know, scheduling people, getting them food, looking after them. Basically, I was just a mum. So that's why it's called a house mum, which was kind of funny when I was like in my very early 20s and everyone was calling me mum.
So do they still have that role?
No.
Nah, you're just out there fending for yourself.
Yeah, so I've been with that company for 5 years, so they haven't had a house mum the entire time I've been there. So I wish they did, but no.
Jeez. Like,
yeah, it's just like, there you go, fend for yourself. You're like drowning and they're like, oh, you'll be fine.
Yeah, because it was kind of like I would take the new dancers under the wings because obviously like if you've never done it before, there's a lot of unwritten rules and like different clubs run different ways and you really do need like someone to guide you through that and just keeping like the standard up because the place that I worked for, they were known as the more like exclusive high-end club. I'm just going to name them Love and Rockets. I don't work there anymore. I can say what I want.
Around? They're surely.
Yeah, that's where I work.
Yeah,
that's my club. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had like a lot higher standards than the other clubs, especially
Is
like.
that still true?
Yes, but the standard has gone down.
Maybe it's because they don't have house mums anymore.
Literally.
Bring back the mums, you know.
I would get paid per girl. So if it was a really busy night, I would be making the money. If it wasn't so much, I would be like, oh, it's not a great night. Because I would do like 6 to like 3 or 6 to like 4, depending on like, you know. And I would do about like 3 days a week. So I do like, I really like doing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That would be like my days. And then I'd be done for like the week of work, but they would be like long hours. I can't believe they don't have house moms anymore.
They like to cut costs, I think.
But it's like they weren't even paying me. It was the girls.
That's crazy.
Inflation is everywhere.
It's just like if you're dancing here, you pay the house mum this amount of money per night. Like there's no if, ands, or but. I never got paid by the club. Like I was a contractor.
Shit.
So I'm surprised they cut that. But then I did remember I left and then they told me like this was years later, they had then changed that up because they got, I think, a bit more greedy. And instead they were making the girls pay the club and then the club started to pay the house mums just like $20 an hour, which I was like, that's not even minimum wage and you're working nighttime and that's not including super or tax or any benefits because you were under contractor. So I was like, well, that kind of makes sense why there's no house mums anymore if they did that. Like,
yeah, that doesn't surprise me either.
Yeah.
Like,
all right, well, I thought I'd get in and I've got like a few funny stories. I was like having a really good think back about like all the stories because it has been like not to say my age, but at like 10 years now since I've worked there.
Shit. It was probably a different time. Wait, How do you do it? Like, okay, so I'm going to preface this saying I've only been into a strip club a handful of times. I haven't been a piece of shit when I've gone in there. I know women can be a piece of shit when they go in there. I promise, girls, I have not been a piece of shit. I feel like the only time I've ended up in a strip club has been when I've been with a group of boys and they're like, fucking strippers. So we've gone in. But back in the DZ, you'd bring in your dollar bills, y'all. Do you guys just have like a little like, what's it called? Like a square? Little square on the hip, or do they get cash out again?
It's a bit weird at the moment. So since COVID, everything with the cash kind of changed.
Yes.
So we actually get like receipts when we get dancers now, and then we like cash them out at the end of the night. We like scan them. Clever. But like if we get tipped in cash, we keep that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but certain clubs are different. Like some clubs have like tipping dollars and stuff, which I think is stupid because usually you've got to get like a certain amount of tipping dollars to be able to cash it in for like a certain amount, and you're always getting a little bit ripped off with that. So
yeah, they have more control then. Yeah. It's not like the old put a 50 in your undies.
Yeah, so I definitely prefer like full, because I'll get tipped like a 50 or 100 on stage, and then that's all mine, and I'm like,
yes, and no,
way better.
Tax free?
Oh yeah, well we've got to declare
actually doing it. Yes, that is. I write it all down and put it through zero.
Very good.
Everything's invoiced
all above board.
Well, like basically with like Love and Rockets too. So like when I worked there, I don't know if it's changed, but yeah, whatever the money worked as, whatever the girl got tipped on stage, 100% theirs. They get to keep. The club didn't take a cut, and then it was like the club took a cut at lap dances. So I can't remember what the cut they were taking back then, but I
probably
think
the same as they are now. We just had a $20 pay increase, like a dance fee increase after 5 years, $20 increase, and I'm like, I feel like inflation is more than that, but anyway, I'm happy with whatever.
Man, inflation's getting everyone. Well, wasn't it that stripper that predicted the last global financial crisis because she said no one's coming in the clubs, we're about to have a global financial, and she was right. All the experts were saying, nah, she's not right, and hey. And she's just predicted the next one.
Yeah.
You know, tough times are getting tough when, the money's not flowing in the club.
100%.
Basically, the strippers would all get whatever they got tips on stage. And then at the lap dances, there was 15, half an hour, and an hour you could book for, or you could just literally book the whole night. And I think an hour was $300, and I can't remember what the cut was that the club got. But the club would take theirs, and then at the end of the night, they would just pay the girls out. Okay, you've done this many dances, you make this. So obviously, the longer you book, the cheaper it kind of the sliding scale it got. But, and it would be sometimes girls would just want to, get fully booked because it's that guaranteed money. But if you got a bunch of shorter dances, because it's more of a higher price point, they would make more money, but then there was always that risk of you might not actually get all of those dances. So yeah. And I did work when it was quite at the peak, because I think I worked at both the one on Peachtree and in the Valley. And the Valley at the peak on a Friday or Saturday night, we'd have anywhere from 40 to 60 girls. Yeah. It was the 2 floors. It was pumping. So me getting money off 40 to 60 girls added up, and that was really great for me because I was so young. I was like, oh my God, I'm making so much money. Yeah. But yeah, and then I think it has it has peaks and flows, but I think it was because it was a massive mining boom was happening, and a bunch of army guys had just gotten back from Afghan and Iraq, and they had all this tax-free money that they were going
PTSD
nuts.
dollars.
Yeah, they were going nuts. The girls were loving it. My first story I'm going to get into, and I was having a really good think back about the juicy stories, and I probably got way more, but I might have buried them in my subconscious because it's been so long. But I remember this one night, and it was a slow night. It was a Wednesday night. Wednesday nights were never really popular, and there was a guy, he was a regular, who came in every week and saw this same girl. I'm going to call her Alice. So he saw Alice every Wednesday, and I think he was a lawyer or a marketer or maybe a banker. He was one of those kind of guys, the suit guys, briefcase wanker. Very much thought he was a bit above everyone else, but he absolutely loved this one girl, and he came in every single Wednesday night and would book her for minimum 3 hours, pretty much generally the whole night. And so she was always like, Wednesday nights, roster me on. And one night I was downstairs and one of the girls comes running downstairs and she's like, you need to get upstairs now. And I'm thinking something's like, his wife had come into the club and caught him. And
so she didn't know.
Well, she found out.
Shit.
Obviously, he's going there every Wednesday night. He's a regular. Everyone knew his name. Like, he's a regular.
What did wife do?
Well, you want to know what the twist was? She was high up in the police. She was a police officer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did he think he was going to get away with spending... Because he was dropping... Because not only with drinks and the dances, he was dropping thousands every week. And he, like... And even though, so, like, a lot of clubs, like, you know, it won't come up as, obviously, the name of the strip club on your statements. It will come up as, like, something enterprise or whatever. You know, your wife's not a police officer. You might be able to get away with that. But the fact that, like, I'm like... How did he not think she would put 2 and 2 together, going through their bank statements, being like, why is this every Wednesday night?
I have a sibling, funnily enough, who works in banking and high up in banking, and said the amount, it's happened a bit where, because, you know, to help with getting people's home loans, she'll have to go through line by line their banking. And, you know, if you're spending money on dumb shit, it makes you more risky for a home loan. And a couple will come in and there'll be all this, look, she'll find all these OnlyFans or, like, you know, he's been out at the strip clubs, like, on the bank statement. And then for whatever reason it's come up, like, they've had to reject a home loan. And it's like the husband and wife sitting there being like, well, why have we been rejected? And she's like, get my manager. And yeah, that's it. It's all the money you're spending on this shit, which, you know. God. But you know what? You're supporting someone's living. You're helping the girls.
Exactly.
Go do it.
They're all small businesses.
That's it. Support small business. But yeah, that's come up before in her their job.
Well, when this was all happening, we didn't know who she was, but we're like, how did she figure this out? Because, like, you know, she came in and she flashed her badge to get in.
Fuck off.
And so instantly...
What a fucking wanker. Because it's not illegal. That, at the end of the day, like, even though it's not nice that your hubs is spending your money or spending money there, and he's lied, but it's not illegal what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
well, so she flashes her badge to get in, so instantly, and because it's a slow night, we're all interested.
Yeah.
I was downstairs and I was so happy that one of the girls was like, you need to get up, you need to come upstairs now, you're missing out.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of like, I was like in the bar area, we're all kind of like watching but trying not to, you know, like the whole subtle. And so he's with his girl, he's bought the dancers, and his wife comes in and she just starts like going at him. And he, you know what he does? He just gets up, doesn't say a word to her, leaves.
What a man. I would do the same. I'd be like, I don't know her. Gotta go.
He just gets up and leaves, and then, let's say, Alice, she's just there being like, what the fuck do I do? Like,
do you want me to finish off on you, sis?
Well, she's like just in a G-string, and she's like, I was literally just standing there in my G-string, and then the wife starts talking to me, being like, what does he talk to you about? What is it that you do?
If you tip me, I will tell you. Well, swing me a pineapple and we can talk.
She was like, well, I guess I'm technically on the clock. Like, their money's shared money. So, like, he's already paid. So she's like, I sat down and had a little chat to her. Then it was, like, the point where she was crying on my arm. And I was like, I don't know how to get out of this.
Put another 50 in the underpants.
Because we already knew the husband's name because, you know, he put his credit card on the bar. So we, like, looked her up. And all these news articles came up. She had talked many times at different police press events. Like, she was really high up in Queensland police, which we were all like, how did he think he would get away with, like, her not knowing this was what he was doing? Like, or if he was just that, he didn't care, he's that arrogant. But anyway, he left for about, like, half an hour, and she's having a big old cry.
Did he come back?
And then, well, we were like, we have to get this, like, woman out. Like, she's really bringing the joint down. Like, management was like, look, like, you do have to leave. Like, and then she started to get, like, really alright. He comes back in. I think he thought she would have left by then. He comes back in, sees her there, And
does another 360?
no. And he says, like, fuck you. I've spent the money. I'm still going to be getting my hour's worth. Sits down, gets Alice to keep doing the dance. While his wife is sitting in the next booth, literally crying.
Well, that relationship's probably over.
Yeah, so eventually, the security had to be like, look, both of you need to leave. Like, this is like a real...
fucking circus.
Yeah.
Get Jerry Springer in here.
Like, oh my God. I remember that, and I couldn't believe, like, I was like, the audacity he had, because obviously she didn't know, so it wasn't like she was all good with it. But the fact that he was like, his wife, quite high up on the police, he didn't think she would glue two and two together.
Big
Like,
kahunas he had.
Not always the smartest.
No.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I have a similar story.
yeah, go ahead.
So I was doing a dance with some guy, and you're sitting on their lap, and the phone's vibrating, right? You can feel it. And so I'm always like, oh, like, your pocket's vibrating. And he's like, oh, it's probably just my girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Whatevs.
Yeah.
Each to your own. Just, it keeps ringing. It keeps ringing. It keeps ringing. He takes it out, puts it on the table. It's still ringing. He's just declining it.
Do not disturb, man.
And I'm just like,
do not
this
disturb.
is a little bit awkward. Anyway, I didn't realize that they were actually out with him that night, right? So
Dumb fuck.
this girl comes walking up to the top area to where the dances happen, and is like, oi, we have to go right now, and just like rips him out from underneath me. And I'm just like, I don't think it was actually his girlfriend. I think it was his girlfriend's friend. But I was like, I thought your girlfriend was just at home and was just like calling you, like, but you're out together tonight and you've left her to go into a strip club. Oh my God, I'd still been paid, so I was like,
Yeah,
sweet.
I was about to say, as long as you got them notes.
Yeah. I
Piss
was like,
off.
oh my goodness, the audacity. Like, I don't know, he probably just got off on it. He was just like, oh,
Yeah.
that's just my girlfriend.
Yeah,
I
or
was
whatever.
Like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Or probably from like out at the burbs, it's an expensive cab home. It's like, fuck, I'm out. Got to get me money's worth. Go and see the dancers because, fuck the Osborne. You guys can stay there. I'm going to go party with the girls.
So one of the questions that when I did post about that we're doing this podcast was, what advice do you have for someone that's like getting new into like stripping? So for a baby stripper.
Baby stripper. Okay. It's really hard. It is a hard fucking job. It is like going to be physically, mentally, and emotionally draining. It's not quick, easy money. Like, it's going to be hard. I think a lot of people think, like, oh, I must be a stripper and, like,
Yeah, I
be
remember
rich.
when I used to get so many people being like, oh, man, it must just be such an easy job. And I was like, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. Like, they're like, oh, all you're doing is, like, taking your clothes off. And I'm like, I was a house mom, and I was like, everyone was always like, oh, because, like, I was young, and everyone's like, well, why don't you do it? Like, you would make good money. And I'm like, I am not mentally tough enough for this job. I see this, and I 100% know that this is not for me, or I know I'd get arrested for assault charges because I would just literally backhand a guy if he said something. I'm like, this is not, like, I know my limits, and I'm like, those girls, they earn every single cent. Like, it is a hard job.
Yeah, and dealing with the people. Like, I, like, go to a networking event and I'm like, it's like every day is a networking event. However, I have noticed you dancers, you always have the best posture. Because,
Yeah, because you have to.
yes, and here we are, we're like, like Hans Molman over here. I went to Bali with some, Sheri and I used to do makeup back in the day. That's how we met each other, and I was a makeup artist on a shoot in Bali. And the girls who did some dancing, whenever we were just sitting at a bar or something, best posture. They just looked like a model sitting on a chair, and I'm like, what's the go? And they're like, I think they're like, we just got used to it. You've always got to look beautiful. You've always got to look really approachable. So you're, sitting how you are, like,
Exactly, you've got to have good body language.
Yes!
You've got to, like, always be, like, on show. Like, yeah, it's like acting, like, for 8 hours straight. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah, it is really rough. And it's also, like, really rough on your body because those heels...
pleases, man.
Oh, wearing those heels, and they're not an optional thing. Like, it's not... You can't just be like, I'll wear a baby heel tonight. Like, I know Love and Rockets, it was like you had to have a minimum of, like, 6...
Yeah, it was a minimum 6 inches.
Yeah.
Kittens, though, you can wear sneakers. It's the only club.
What?
Yeah, so Kittens in Brisbane and Kittens in Melbourne, you can wear sneakers.
Yeah. And in
which
winter,
is weird, though,
in winter, still had to wear lingerie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Freezing.
clubs would be freezing. I would be there.
In the club is freezing.
Yeah, I would be there in like freaking rugged up, and all the girls are like,
Yep.
yeah,
Right.
and like dancing on the pole, you're left with bruises, marks. It's a very physical job. Like,
Yeah, and you don't get a chance to warm up or cool down. Like, you're on stage, then you're off. You're doing a dance, and then you're not. Like, you're just heating up, cooling down, heating up. It's not great on your body. So
No.
I do a lot of yoga. Yeah. Listen to what people tell, like the older girls tell you, because they know what's up. Like, and listen, every club has like little rules. Like, find out what those are as well, because that can get you in trouble sometimes. Like, in particular, like, don't talk to people when they're tipping other girls or watching people on stage.
no cutting grass.
No cutting grass.
That was a big one I had to
Yeah.
deal with. Was new girls would come in, and there was a rule that if any guy was sitting around the stage, they were no longer able. You can't approach them, because the girl that's up on stage, they're her customers. So it would be called cutting grass if you came and approached them, because you're cutting her grass.
Yeah, right.
And it was a big, like, that's the golden rule, you do not cut grass. Or if a girl is talking to a guy, you can't just take the seat next and start joining the conversation unless you have been invited in. And that was a big rule that all, like, you know, the new baby strippers would always break, because they just didn't understand, like, that's, like, one of the golden rules not to break. And my other sort of, like, piece of advice would be, is don't waste your time on the young, good-looking guys.
Yeah.
They will not, like 9 times out of 10, they are not buying a dance. Like,
Yeah, right.
they think that they are so good-looking that you could give them a dance for free. That would literally be, they would always be like, oh, why can't you just give me one for free? So if you were a brand new to the industry or thinking about, do not waste your time. The older men have the money.
Yeah, the older, the better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And like the country guys, a lot of time, they're from out of town. They've saved up their money and they are there to spend that night. So if you find a guy's country, he's generally there, and they'll
Got
be
some cash.
really nice too.
Yeah, they're really lovely.
respectful.
Yeah,
But the
right.
young city dudes, don't waste your time. I know it's like they're hot, and you're like, of course you want to give them a dance over an older fella. But most of the time, they're either there because their friends are there,
Yeah,
or they think it's some sort of like accomplishment if they can get a stripper's number or something like that, or if they can try to get a dance for free. So you're just wasting your time with them.
Or take you home. Oh, I just want to take you home. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just go to a club and do that.
Yeah, like,
Does anyone pick up at strip clubs? Like, does it happen? Is that a thing ever?
well, legally, you're
Yeah.
not allowed
Oh,
to.
You're
really?
allowed to, yeah.
Really?
It's
So,
classed as
like,
prostitution then.
well, I mean, if they're like a genuine connection, does that ever happen?
It does happen, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Love happens on the pole.
Yeah. Like, my ex was actually working at the strip club, so that's how
Wow.
we met.
Yep.
Yeah, that happens
red
a
flag.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the managers, the male managers,
Oh,
so fucking sleazy.
Really?
So fucking sleazy. That I think was also another reason why they had house mums, because the male managers would do so much shit that I was part of my job was to watch them. Like literally, I got told by the big boss I needed to watch the male managers. That's why they always wanted me to be backstage, like behind in the dressing room, to stop that shit.
ugh.
The male fucking managers. And then there was a few female managers, and one was really great, and I don't know why she left, but she was freaking awesome. Like, everyone really loved her. And then there was another one that was there when I was there, and she just, it felt like she was competing with the girls.
Oh, I've met people, I've met managers like that, yeah.
I was just like, so I'm just like, geez, you cannot get a good manager, because the guys, the male managers that want to work there are sleazy, and they literally will hit on the girls, and like, they will be seeing multiple girls, and they're not meant to. And they'll be banging multiple girls and doing shit, and I was always having to keep an eye on them.
Gross.
Yeah, all the female managers, yeah, they would have like these, they would just clash with some of the dancers. And
There's a lot of control issues too, I find.
Yeah.
Like, people in management just wanting to, like, control everything. It's like, well, we don't actually work for you guys. Like,
yeah, I remember like there was one girl, and she was a massive money earner. And, like, literally she had regulars out the door. Like, she was just one of those chicks who just had it. And she went up against one of the new female managers, and it was like clash against the titans, because she's like, you don't want to piss me off because I will take my customers to the next club.
Yeah.
And, like, it was, the manager ended up getting fired.
Shit. Well, fair enough. You're not the talent, mate. Get on your bike.
Another story that I want to share was there was a guy, and he would come in about once a month, and he could never get any of the girls to give him a second dance because he had a really strange request. And once a girl had done it, she never did it again.
Like the girl's choice or his choice?
So he had a strange request, and once they had done a dance for him doing this request, never again would they do it.
Right. What was the request?
Oh, I'm going to get to it.
What is it?
It, on the surface, doesn't seem until you find out a bit more.
Okay.
So he was like average-looking dude, probably I'd say mid-40s, came in once a month.
A mid-looking guy that's in his mid-years. Mid all around. It's always the mid ones that are fucking freaky as shit.
Yeah.
Actually, can you confirm that? These fucking boring-ass looking men that are like, I want you to step on my balls in high heels.
Yeah.
So he would come in about once a month, and he would book one girl, and he would book her for the whole night. So he's dropping like a few grand for the whole night. And you'd think that because he booked for the whole night, like guaranteed money, all the dancers would want to. But every dancer that had been there for a bit knew of him. He had this reputation, and they would all give it like a go once because they're like, surely it can't be that bad. Surely, like, you know, it's not that, like, unusual, the request. Like, it's fine. Once they had done it, they would never, ever again. So it would always be, like, the new dancer because, there was always a new dancer. And she would always get, like, palmed off onto him. The request. Now, you're not going to think it's that strange when I tell it to you. He wouldn't want them to dance. He would want them to just sit next to him and chat. And he would want them to wear clothes. And you think, easy money. Like, money in the bank.
Doing that for free with you guys right now. I could be making money right now.
Until you found out what clothes he wanted you to wear.
What do you want you to wear?
His dead mother's clothes.
Oh, I'd still do it.
I would 100% do it. My regular. Where are you, mate? Come to Rocket.
Just get some Febreze on it and go.
But also, you would then have to play the role of his mother.
What's the mum's role? What kind of mum?
It was...
Was it a nice mum?
I feel like
Not
it was
nice
a
mum?
very, like, psycho...
like actual Psycho, the movie where he's...
Yeah, where he's got his
up
dead
as
mothers in the cupboard. So they would be in these, like, 90s sitting and talking to him. And he would also want to be held like a baby.
How old? Oh, so he's mid.
Yeah.
He's mid.
But apparently...
I knew it! It's always these mid-fucking dudes that are into weird shit. Cosplaying as normal dudes on the street. They look like normal dudes, but in actual fact, they want you to put, like, their balls in stockings.
Yeah. Well, apparently the conversations were that just intense that none of the girls... Like, they would come down on their, like, breaks and be like, no, I am... They're like, I am not going back up there. Like, someone else can take over. And they'd be, like, taking the old lady's clothes off.
Shit. Does it ever happen where you just don't want to serve someone? Like, no one wants to talk to him and they're just sitting there and you're like, fuck that. He'll go at some point. Does that... Or is it, like, the rules like, oh, fuck, Johnny's over there. Go talk to him. It's like, don't want to do it.
They're, like, independent contractors, so it's their choice if they want
it
or not.
Do it.
Yeah. So, like, the managers will kind of, like, be like, come on, like, someone, come on. But you can just be like, nah, not doing it.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, those were two of the stories that, like, I was kind of thinking about. And, yeah, the dude that used to make the girls wear his dead mother's clothing.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Honestly,
and be
wild.
cradled like a baby while they had to pretend that they were his mother.
I wonder where he went.
I honestly wonder...
Where are they now? We need a where are they now, these people.
Call him Norman Bates, because I 100% think that mother is still somewhere in his house. like she's dead on the bed, like, and he just goes in and brushes her hair every morning. Like, that was the vibe.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, you get a lot of, like, emotional stuff put on you as a stripper.
Yeah, it's
like,
very much like therapy for
lot.
men.
Yeah.
It's like men won't go and take the step to go and pay to see a proper therapist, but they will spend the same amount of money on a lap dance.
Yes, right.
One of my favorite customers are criminal defense lawyers because they have a lot of money and they're usually quite messed up.
Yeah, of course.
They'll book you out all night and then you get them drunk enough and then they start crying and then, you know, you've got it in the bag.
Yeah. Sorted out.
Yeah.
Straight to the bank.
Yeah. I liked like the older dudes because they generally were like more respectful to the girls. It was always the young dudes that would say stupid comments. But the older dudes, like, you know, even though it's like, yeah, they're older dudes, most of the time, like, especially if they were like a business dude, they were coming in just for some connection. Like they might not have a wife or whatever it was, but they just were like, they would literally come in and just book a girl to chat. Not necessarily even for a dance because they just needed that connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what most people come in for.
Yeah. You know, strippers are out there doing God's work, you know. Like,
they're out there saving marriages because they're, you know, getting a bit of connection somewhere.
yeah.
Exactly. Talking through their marriage. The amount of times I've counselled people on their marriage problems, I'm just like, ugh.
You're like, mate, I'm half your age. Fucking hell, what do I know?
I'm going to pretend I know what I'm talking about. It's fine. Yeah.
My stories, okay, one of them goes a bit rogue. And I think I have to tell it. It's not a complete stripper story, but I think you guys, I heard it and I was talking, like, when I heard it, I was like, shit, I don't know if I can sit on this story for a while. So I will kick it off. So this gent wrote in. So guys, if you ever want your story featured, we're always asking for stories and we prefer to share stories of people we know or people that have written in because that is awesome and it saves us a bit of homework. So there was this gent and he was, you know, over on a boys trip in the UK looking, you know, going through the red light district, enjoying some of the entertainment through there. They'd gone through, there was 4 lads, and they'd gone through and I guess they're broke, you know, having their gap year overseas or, you know, travelling overseas. And they're like, fuck, all right, we want to experience some of this. So they pulled their money together and they're like, okay, we've got enough, but we can only, like they decided, deviate from the strippers, deviate from the sex show, let's hire a sex worker. There's 4 of us, we've got enough money, we can hire a girl, let's do it. So the lads all do it, and they found someone that was like going to do like a big gangbang with them in essence. And they went in, they had a great time, everyone's having a great time, but one of them just wouldn't come. So they're just waiting for Johnny to come. And like, the boys are all just sitting around like, fuck, mate, sort it out. And this girl's doing everything. Yeah, like, do what you need to do. We're like, got places to go. We want to go get stoned. So she's doing everything under the sun. And he was like, I was impressed. This girl is going above and beyond and stunning, doing all the service, everything for the service. And he said, and these are straight guys. He's like, I just got the shits with it. I just grabbed his cock. Within 4 seconds, he came. His mate finished it off. And I was like, that is, yeah. What? And I said, what happened after that? And he was like, look, he just was a bit embarrassed, shrugged it off. And he's like, he came all over himself. And he's like, oh, fuck. And walked out. And that was it.
That's taking the friendship to a whole new level.
Yeah, the boys. I don't know. I was like, holy hecker.
BFFs.
Yeah. I was like, and the girl, he said the girl just looked puzzled. She was just sitting there like, what the fuck, guys? You could have just done that for free. Like, shit, I'm out here doing fucking everything. Your mate touches your cock and it goes. So here are some other things that maybe you could comment on, just a couple of little small bites. So this one was a bit of an interesting one. I stripped for about 3 years when I was in my 20s to pay off my student debt. Towards the end, I became pregnant with my daughter. During that time, I made double the money I would normally earn. You would not believe how many men were into me because I was visibly pregnant. And I'm going to go off the back of this, and I don't know if this is still true, that I was talking to a stripper once, and she said, if I wear my hair in pigtails, anything a little bit fetishy like that, double the money. Is that true still?
100% true. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I thought so.
I guess, like, if you're pregnant, like, you're very fertile. Like, it would make sense that you would be more attractive to men.
And there's guys that just have, like, that, like, kink. The pregnant women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Some guys are really into it. Yeah.
So maybe find your niche in there and do the niche. Or what's this one?
Yeah, don't do OnlyFans when you're pregnant and keep
people
the footage and keep reusing it.
That's it. Rub oil on your tongue.
Yeah.
I worked for a stripper for about 2.5 years. I had this one man that would come in and buy a few hours in our private VIP room. He'd pay hundreds of extra dollars in tips for me to step on his balls with my heels and hit him with a riding crop. As bad as it felt, as bad as I felt about hurting him, he loved it. So does that stuff still, do you get the fetishy stuff like
Not
that?
in my club.
No,
Yeah.
it would. Yeah, it's not that kind of place. Like, you'd need to go to a bit more of a...
BDSM or something like that?
Yeah, or like a bit more of a back...
Because you're not touching people in there, really.
No, yeah.
You are?
In Queensland, it depends where you are.
Right,
Different states
so what are
have
the
different
rules?
So
Yeah.
Queensland, like you're allowed to touch, but
Okay.
New South
So-
Wales, Melbourne, not allowed to touch.
Yeah, so in Queensland, we used to say it was like the 5-finger rule. So you can't touch there and you can't touch on the bum hole. So you'd like... So basically, like...
I bet they still try.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Especially the young
Yeah.
girls.
But that's why they have controllers. So I had my controlling license. Well, I didn't do many controlling. Like, so
So
basically...
there's someone there, you're supported.
yeah,
at the
someone's
same-
watching you the whole
Yeah,
time.
so for the law, there
Yeah.
has to be a controller. You have to be a licensed controller. And if you don't have one and you get caught, the club will get fined massive money. And so, like, they got me to get my license just in case, like, a controller never, like, they didn't have enough staff. And so a few times I did have to go and control, like, dances and stuff, but it wasn't, like, my job title.
Yeah, I reckon I'd be a psycho if I saw a man touching.
It
like,
was
women.
so
I'd
funny
be a
because
fucking psycho.
I was so strict with it because I would get fined too if they got caught because if I let them break the rules. So I was so like nuts. But as soon as I walked in, all the girls would suddenly sit up and like stop doing like if they were kind of pushing the rules because I was like watching like a hawk. But yeah, so it's basically in Queensland at Love and Rockets because I have a full stripping license. You weren't allowed to like that area and like that area. So you could touch anywhere else and you couldn't have genital to genital contact. So a girl cannot be like sitting directly over. So the genitals
area.
and
Yes.
Yeah.
So there always had to be like the sunlight rule where if a girl was like straddling a guy, you would have to be able to see just enough.
So
that they
light
weren't-
through there,
Yeah,
right?
because
Yeah.
obviously because it's not like prostitution. If there was genital to genital contact, even if it's through clothes, like both parties have got, and he came, that then
Gross.
is then classed as
Yuck.
prostitution.
And also the diseases.
Yeah.
What if they've got some...
well, technically, like you wouldn't get it because they would have their clothes on.
True.
But
Yes.
obviously the
Still
rub
gross.
and the stimulation, so they weren't allowed to do anything like that sort of genital to genital contact and
there you
stuff.
go. I learned something new. Well, I actually had one of my friends, she was an ex-dancer now, and she was doing her thing, butt naked, blue knot in this guy's face, and she was doing, she bent down and came back up, and she said, my ass crack was wet. And turned around and looked at this bloke. He was having the best day of his life. He licked her, hold a hole in her asshole with, is again, no consent. I mean, I'm sure.
Not okay.
You would be getting kicked out.
Oh, yeah.
You would get smoked down.
You'd be getting a
Get
punch
the
to the
police,
face.
yeah.
Like,
You could get done for assault, like
Yes.
sexual assault.
Yeah, it is assault, and like the clubs have got cameras everywhere, like so everywhere, like
Shit.
You
You
know.
would be in the fucking trouble. My last one, which I know you guys have some comments on, is straight women at bachelorette parties or on girls' nights out were the worst customers. We dreaded them. They always thought they were entitled to get in for free because they were women and we were female dancers, which doesn't make sense because they're not the main attraction there. And the club doesn't make any money off them. So I've heard across the board that that's a normal sort of thing. Women in strip clubs are a-holes.
I hated the bachelorette parties. You'd think the bachelor parties would be worse, like a bunch of dudes, but a lot of the time you could pull them in line. You'd say like, hey, not on, you'll go. But the women just like, they felt like, and this happened like time and time again, that they could just cross boundaries and not get that the laws still apply to them. Because I would be like, you can't touch them there. Like, it's against the law. It's not just like, we don't want you to, it's against the law. And the laws apply to you the same way they apply to men. And they just couldn't like quite grasp that concept because they'd be like, it's okay, I'm a girl too, it's nothing I haven't seen. I'm like, it's not. It's against the law.
It's still assault, Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, you are actually taking up a paying customer's time with this woman. Like, just fuck off.
Like, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here about bachelorette parties because I've dealt with them.
Get it. Spill the tea.
If you are going to a strip club that is obviously like a female strip club and you're going there as a bachelorette party, do not think that you are going to be the main attraction, that you are going to get attention, because that is the wrong place to go. You are going to be on the sidelines because all the men that are in there are not interested in you guys. They're not going to be buying you guys drinks. They're going to be buying the girls' drinks and paying the money on the girls. So do not think you're going to be getting attention, free drinks, free entry, none of that. You're just going to be treated like another customer. Now, if you want to, because that's what you want to do, that's all good. But make sure you bring money to tip. Don't go in there without bringing money into tip. Don't expect the girls to chat to you. They're happy to chat to you. But you need to be paying for their time. Do not, and this one was the big one, do not hop up on stage.
Oh yeah, do not get on stage, especially when I'm performing. Do not get on stage. I will get really mad.
Like, one, you're not a professional. The way you dance in the club is not how you dance on stage, and you do not look good. You do not look sexy.
You look very drunk.
Yes,
Out of
and
place.
you're just going to get kicked out. You get up on stage, you're going to get kicked out. Like, it's not about you, it's about the girls. Like, yeah, if you want to do a bachelorette party and you want the attention on you, you want to do it somewhere else. Like, it's just not the place for it. Do not feel like it's okay to make comments on the dancers' bodies because you're a woman too, or touch them inappropriately. Like, I feel like, yeah, it's a really weird thing, but yeah, bachelorette parties would always cross the line and they could never quite grasp why it wasn't okay. But if it was the other way around and it was bachelors doing it, like, everyone would be like, oh my God, you can't do that, like, rah, rah, rah. But it's like, yeah, it was really weird. But yeah, they would always try to get up on stage because they weren't getting enough attention. And you know, the other, so I'm going to go on another rant. So there was always like two types of people that would try to get up on, no, three types. I'm going to say three types. There's three types of people that always try to get up on stage. The real drunk dude that thinks it's hilarious and he's lost all self-control, you know, and he'll get up and start stripping and...
Oh, yes, I've seen that.
Yeah. Then there is obviously the chicks from the bachelorette party when they realise they're not the main set of attention, and then it's the jealous girlfriend. So, like, you would get a lot of couples that would come in because they kind of wanted to spice up, or, you know, like the girl was like, I'm cool too. This is all cool.
I'm a cool girl.
Yeah. And some couples are great. Like, there was like some regular couples and they just loved to come in. They knew all the girls. And that was just, you know, that was their thing and they were great. But there would be like probably like I'd say like first timer couples, and they would come in and the girl would then start to realize that her boyfriend was getting a bit too into the dancers, and then would either start to feel like insecure or competitive, and then get up on stage to try to prove that they were like better or more sexier, or that, you know, they were just as good as the dancer. But it never quite worked out how they thought it would go.
Just go to couples therapy.
Yeah.
Fuck me. Or break up. Or do whatever you need to do.
Yeah. I'd say only do that if your relationship's strong.
Yeah, and if you go to a strip club and then you're like, actually, I'm uncomfortable with this, you can just leave.
Yeah.
Like, don't.
And if your partner isn't,
there.
yeah, if your partner is not willing to leave with you, not willing to be like, that's fine. One of us has called it quits. Let's go. They're assholes.
Red
You
flag.
shouldn't be with them. Yeah.
Not for you. I do have one from Reddit, which actually is funny. Someone else wrote in as well and said something similar happened to them. So, one of my friends was on the pole. She's wearing thigh-high boots with a 6-inch heel. There's this muscular, husky lesbian sitting right there, and for some reason, she leans in as my friend jumps up to grab the top of the pole and do a swing upside down. 1 foot straight out. Bam. 6-inch heel digs right into the side of this lady's face. Blood explodes everywhere. She immediately grabs her face and blood is leaking a river through her fingertips. The bouncers are immediately there and escort her backstage. My friend is just standing there in a G-string with a big O face, stunned. The DJ runs on stage and hustles her off to get another dancer out there pronto. 15, 20 minutes later, the lesbian is back in the bar with her face bandaged up. I found out from one of the bouncers they offered to drive her to a hospital and said she was fine. She just wanted to stay. They gave her a heap of free drinks for the rest of the night, and 2 different girls gave her free lap dances. She looked pretty buzzed and happy by the rest of the night. But someone else wrote in and said they got a heel to that. They were another dancer and they came out and someone kicked them in the face, and that has happened.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes intentional, sometimes
Does it?
So there was this guy, and he was sitting in the tipping chairs, but he was refusing to tip. And he had his drink up on like the little ledge.
Oh, don't put your drinks on the stage, people.
Right.
Well, he learned his lesson because the girl that he was refusing to tip had enough. So she did a spin and put her leg out and kicked his drink into his lap as she spun around.
And it would have just looked flawless.
Yeah. Well, you put your drink on my stage.
She was like, oh, my mistake.
Sorry, go off and do
I
that.
love that.
Someone commented on that. I have the weirdest boner right now.
Of course, Reddit is wild.
Yes, I love Reddit.
So I used to work at the Love and Rockets at Petrie Terrace, and it's quite a small club. So, if you were in the club, you could see everything that was going on in all parts of the club at all times. Anyway, I used to go off on game nights because of the Suncorp Stadium. Yes. And one game night, I can't remember what game was playing, I had gotten a massage, probably a week or 2 before that.
I know what's happening.
And I'm very weird about massages. I always want it to be a female. I think that's a pretty common thing. Yes. But this was a guy, it was a male, and I didn't realize until I rocked up, and then I was like, oh, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this. But I still went through with it. I just had a really sore back because I was dancing full time. Anyway, he seemed nice enough. He was probably late 20s, I reckon. Not that old. Anyway. So I'm just there, at work the next night, on stage, and I've got very, obvious tattoos. Anyway, I get off stage, and I'm just walking around, and this guy comes up to me. He's like, hey. And I'm like, oh, my God, it's my masseuse, right? And I was like, oh, hey. And it was very awkward. But then he wanted to take me for a dance, and I'm like, well, it's my job, and also, I want your money, so let's do it. Spend the whole time telling me how much in love with me he was, and I was like, it wasn't weird, bro. Now you've made it weird.
Yes.
And it was just the most awkward experience of my life because he just thought I was really into him. And I'm like, you're paying me to be into you now.
You're paying for this experience, dude. It's role reverse. At least you're making more money for massage.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, I was like, I can't go back and have a massage after he professed his feelings. And he was also like, yeah, I really enjoyed massaging you. You've got a really nice body. And I was like, oh, no. Now I'm just,
now you've just made that experience so sexual.
Yeah. So can never go back.
Yeah, and then I had to block him because he kept hitting me up, being like, "Do you want another massage?" I'm like, "Get the hint." No.
That would happen a lot.
Yeah.
Customers would just fall in love with the girls and not realize you are paying them to be interested, and it was a real shock for them when they just didn't reciprocate those feelings.
It's always really awkward when because it's a fine line. You want them to think that you really like them, but then you don't want them to think that you're going to date them outside. A lot of people will I swear at least one a night is well, you I want to date you, hitting me up on my Instagram afterwards, and it's just so awkward because I'm like, there's a line there and I'm not going to cross it. So yeah, it gets pretty awkward sometimes. Actually, this is only a couple of weeks ago. Got approached by this guy. He's probably 40s, maybe mid-40s. Anyway, he was super shy and he asked me for a dance, which is always great. If I'm standing there and I'm just waiting for someone to approach me and someone approaches me, awesome. Because then I don't have to do any hustling or any work. So I do that a lot. Anyway, so he brings me out for a dance and he just wants to massage me. And at the start, it was only a half an hour dance. I'm like, yeah, cool. And some guys do that. Some guys just love just that you also enjoy it as well. Yeah. So he's massaging me. And then after the dance ended, he didn't want to extend. So then I think we went back down, kind of went our separate ways. And then he ended up coming back to me and rebooking me. And I think he booked me for multiple hours and he did not let me do anything. He was like, I'm just going to massage every single part of your body. So I'm sitting there getting paid. So if you book an hour, I make oh my God, how much do I make? Over $200. Yep. I'm sitting there getting paid $200 an hour to get massaged. And I'm like, this is when it feels good, you know?
Yeah.
This is when stripping is like, it pays off. But yeah, that is a very rare find.
Yeah.
I'm kicking myself that I didn't like get any of his like contact details. I'm just gonna hope that he like comes back in.
Bring him back.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a full 360 on the other massage, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Massage
two
story.
birds, one stone there, mate.
No, it was so good. And my back was really sore too, so I was like perfect.
Because you can't go back to the other
Yeah,
massage, man.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Actually, that's like a really, like how you said, oh, I wish I got his contact numbers. If you are like a new stripper, to get regulars, get their details and let them know what nights you're going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
The girls that were like done it for a while, they even set up like fake, like Facebooks and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that all their customers could like follow them on that. And they would just let them know, like, I'm in tonight, this night, this night. And so that way their regulars would come in. And that's how like they always had like that income, because there would be nights where it's like so slow. Like a middle of the week, it's not going to be pumping. And then they would always schedule their like, yeah. So it's a very good tip if you are like thinking about getting into it, is you need your regulars because they're going to keep your income stable.
Yeah, start building that up. I recommend... I was going to say Instagram, but my Instagram actually just got deleted like yesterday.
What?
Which sucks.
What
I was
happened?
at 7K. Oh,
Why
that
does
just,
it do that?
It's just like whorephobia. Like Instagram's really bad for censoring.
Really?
So yeah, it happens all the time, and without warning, like just bam, someone just messaged me, was like, hey, your Instagram's gone. And I was like, damn it.
Yeah, it does.
Tick and time bomb.
Wow. So what
yeah.
happens? Can you get it back?
No.
Fuck me.
Yeah, it's just gone. There's nothing you can do about it. It's very frustrating because I've got a lot of people on there. Like,
It's a business platform.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we just gotta be careful with Instagram. But
Well,
like your number,
No one likes Instagram at the moment.
Yeah.
Like they're fucking everyone over.
yeah. But you've got to have boundaries though. Like you can't, like you've got to give someone your number or get their number, but like don't let them message you constantly and call you and talk to you. Like your time is money, so like you do have to like have boundaries. Like
I think that's like, yeah, the girls that would set up, like, because this was back in the day of where Facebook was the thing. That's telling you how long ago it was. But they would set up like Facebook pages, and it would just be under their dancer name, and it wouldn't have any info, but they would tell their like clients to follow them on that. And then they would just let them know, and that's the only form of contact that they would have. Like, you know, if you're smart, you don't give out any details.
yeah. Well, that's why Instagram was really good because
Yeah.
like you could be completely anonymous. Like
Yeah.
you could be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
your dancer persona. Like a lot of girls will do photo shoots and stuff, and you can put the photos up. But yeah. No, Instagram sucks. Again, this is back at the Peachtree Terrace Club. This club was so interesting. It was a tiny little club that no one barely knew because it was like hidden away, but it had the longest term regulars.
Is this the one? Is it? Let me think.
The one with the giant rocket out the front.
Is
Yeah,
it the
Nick
one?
Hudson.
It's on Peachtree Terrace, and then there was like a also in that area there was like a honeybees
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah.
that
So
was around the
Honeybees is
corner.
owned by the same company.
Yeah.
Yeah, just different branding.
Yeah,
There
just
you go.
different branding.
Yeah.
We would just get the weirdest customers. So one night, this, I don't actually know what he was, but he had a lot of money. He's this Chinese guy, didn't speak English, came in with like a bunch of people like that were like translators for him. He must have been pretty high up. Anyway, he was just tipping literally hundreds for me on stage. It was amazing. And then he invited me up to the booth, and then he wanted... Like, this is through the translator. He was trying to get me, like, he really wanted to take me to dinner, like, pay me to do dinners with him. And I, like, considered it, but then because of the language barrier, I was like, I didn't feel very safe, like, being in that position.
Yes.
Yeah, because you don't know
But-
if he, like, it's something more.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. Like, I didn't know if there was going to be clear boundaries, and I ended up declining it, but, like, he really wanted to, but it was so weird, like, he was talking through, like, his translator, and it just seemed, like, very, like, yeah, like upper class, like kind of like this guy had like
Shit.
just so much money that he was like, I will pay you thousands of dollars just to have dinner with me. And I'm like,
Wow.
Imagine being that translator.
yeah, I
Like,
know.
fuck this. This is.
Yeah.
You could say whatever you wanted, really, and just.
I remember a lot of celebs would come in, and they would always have minders with them to make sure they didn't get into too much trouble.
Yeah.
Lots
right.
of
Yeah, I met one of them the other night actually. Not a celebrity, but just a businessman from
Yeah.
the Gold Coast.
And he had a minder.
Yeah, he said it was his security, but by the time they got so drunk, the truth came out. He's like, I'm actually paid to be here to make sure they don't do dumb shit. And I'm like, wow.
Actually, you know what? This year I've been way more fucking well behaved. I wasn't pissed as a fart at your birthday. First time ever. There's a first time for everything. But I've needed that in life, just a minder, just to keep me from, just to smack my hand when I'm starting to do wild shit.
Yeah, because like we'd get like I remember any sort of sporting group, they would come in, they would do that, and it was always a female, and they would have a minder, and she would just be watching them all just to make sure that they didn't do anything stupid that could be blasted on the news.
Yeah.
So a lot of celebrities and particularly sports stars, particularly sports groups, when they came in to do like the end of year or end of season celebrations, they always had a minder watching them to make sure they didn't do anything dumb. Actually, there was a really famous, I'd say he's pretty famous Australian standards. He was doing coke in the toilet, and
the minder was keeping eyes out.
Well, no, he didn't have a minder. He's actually gotten, like, I'm not going to say his name, but he's gotten in a ton of trouble, like, over the years, and his dad is an Australian icon.
I fucking know who it is. It's Bert Newton's kid. Is it Bert Newton's kid? Anyways. That's what I would say.
I am not saying nothing.
I bet you it's that piece of shit. Anyways, he's a piece of shit. He bashed his girlfriend. He's a piece of shit.
Well, not naming names, but he was doing coke in the bathroom and got kicked out.
Oh. Fucking looks like he would.
We don't really get many famous people anymore. I feel like the strip clubs used to go off like...
Well, I think because it was like privacy for them, because Slash... you know, from Guns N' Roses, anytime he was in Brisbane, always came into Love and Rockets, because it would, a lot of the time, everyone is minding their business. So he would come in with his whole group, he would book out a VIP area, and it would just be dancers and other dudes there that wanted dancers. So they could have fun, drink, you know, and know that no one was really giving a shit about them. But if they went to another club, it would get mobbed with people, trying to, like...
asking for photos and carrying on.
So, Slash, every time he come, like, at that stage, every time he came into Brisbane, would always come into Love and Rockets for the night. And they would stick him up in, like, the back area and VIP area. And, like, the girls would go in, he'd, you know, buy dancers. Like, he never bought dancers. He never tipped, he never bought dancers. But all his crew, they would. And they were really well behaved, really, like... absolute lovely. He also gave all the girls tickets to his show because he came in the night before.
Oh, right. That's nice. That's okay.
Yeah, he is actually a genuinely lovely guy. I talked to him for a bit, and I talked to his manager for a bit, because his manager was like, "What's a house mum?"
Yeah, right.
He's like, "Why are you in those clothes?" Because I came out to grab one of the girls, and he's like,
"What did you wear?"
I just wore like I guess like pants and like a top, like
a manager kind of clothing.
Yeah. That's what they wanted, just like, you know, manager style. And I used to just have my tag that said my number on it so they could tell, and like my radio and stuff. So it was obvious I wasn't a dancer. But yeah, he was like, "Why are you in that?" And Slash, very fucking lovely guy. Wouldn't ever like buy dancers or anything, but I think he went there to just socialize with his team, and they would all buy dancers. They were freaking awesome guys. But yeah, he invited all the girls that were on that night to the next night to his show, gave them all T-shirts, got them all VIP backstage passes. But yeah, he used to go in there because I think it just, he didn't get hassled.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Fair enough.
I got another question sent to me, and that was, what is your like biggest like thing that will piss you off that a customer will do?
Oh, just talk to me without paying me. Like, I just hate it. Like... if you want to have a conversation with me or like a dancer, buy them a drink, or if they don't want a drink, tip them like $10 or the amount that you would buy a drink, and then chat to them for a bit, and then don't get annoyed when they ask you for a dance, because that's what they're here for.
It's their job.
Let them piss off.
Don't get offended. Yeah. Or if you aren't into like getting dances or anything, like just be upfront about that. I love it when you walk up to a guy and he's like, "Yeah, hi, like nice to meet you, but I don't want get dancers or anything like that," because then you can just be like, okay. Like some girls will like hustle people into it, but I'm just like, cool, cut my losses, bye. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
So totally. My pet hate would be just expecting me to give free labor, because at the end of the day, like I don't get paid a base wage. Like my time is money. So yeah, just being respectful of that.
I used to say this to like a lot of the new girls. I'm like, give them 2 songs, and if at that they've not, like, and say, do you want to go for a dance? And if they say no, like, walk off. Like, they're going to try to keep you there for as long as possible without paying.
And if they say maybe later, then they mean no.
Yeah. And if they're not going to buy you a drink, they're definitely not buying you a dance. Like, you know, if a guy is too much of a cheapskate to buy the dancer a drink, it's going to be a hard sell to get it into the lap room.
100%, yeah.
I would say, like, one of my, like, biggest, like, other than the hens parties, would be just going in there and not sitting at the tipping chairs and not tipping. So if you've never done a strip club before, the chairs that are directly around the stage are for tipping customers only. When you sit in those chairs, you are then expected to pay the girls, and they will not take their clothes off unless they've been tipped. So many times guys would be like, they'd be sitting in the chairs being like, why she's not taking anything off? I'm like, well, because you've not paid her to actually do so why would she? Like, I'm like, and it's like, you know, what's a 5, a 10, a 20? Like, you don't have to be going nuts, but you do need to be given some money.
Yeah.
Actually, this just reminds me of a story. This guy came in and he sat in the tipping chairs and he bought out a coin bag.
Oh, no, not the coins.
Well, he wasn't chucking coins at her.
He tried to pay the girl in coins and she's like, where am I going to put that?
Fuck. Antique Roadshow
I
might
was
be
just like,
interested in that shit.
did he break into his kid's piggy bank? Like,
Oh, my God.
he's scraping the barrel to just see some boobies.
Yeah, someone was in one of the stories I got sent in. They said that someone kept on giving them overseas money, and they're like, "Mate, I can't fucking do anything. What am I gonna do with this Canadian dollar?
Yeah.
Like, fucking nothing."
I hate it. It's literally like, it's just like Monopoly money. Like, just come in with Monopoly money and do
There
that.
was a customer, and he's American, and he came in and got so offended that no one would take. He's like, the US dollar, it's worth more than the Australian dollar, and I'm like, mate. The girl's got to then go to the exchange. She's going to lose, like, a big percentage of that to get that transferred in. I'm like, it's not actual legal tender. He's like, the US dollar is legal tender.
Oh, God.
I'm like, not in Australia.
Not here, mate.
I'm like, I can't take Australian dollars to America and, like, try to use that. Like,
Take your guns and your dollars and fuck off.
bodysuit on and the little clippies are digging in. And it's like, in this day and age, can we not make a bodysuit that doesn't have clips that, like, rub against your vagina and dig in?
Jeez.
Like, we freaking sent a man. Like, people go to the moon and we can't make a bodysuit that doesn't fucking rub. Like, you know, people go to the moon, people go down into.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute.
Actually, no. That's not
don't
a
do
good
that.
example. That one is not a good example.
They implode when they.
Yeah, but you think we would have come to an age where a bodysuit could have a comfortable little clip down there?
No, not in this day and age or this economy.
I have to say, like, lingerie is the most uncomfortable shit. Like, it looks good, but it is so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Ugh.
And I read somewhere, because, okay, I used to work in the tattoo industry, and we had, like, this after tattoo foam, which is like an antibacterial foam. And a girl who was like a dancer used to use it on her butt because she was like, I was worried about like getting germs on my butt because I'm sitting on random shit and like didn't want to get pimples and stuff on my butt. So you do like a little antibacterial wash on the butt, and she was using our cream for that. And I was like,
Yeah, I have like my little routine. Like, so because I've been with the company for ever, if you've been there for like longer than 6 months, you get to have 2 free drinks like on the house.
oh wow,
Loyalty.
damn.
So I always get like my little glass of champagne, like, and if I don't, like, I can't start a night without champagne, like a glass of champagne. I don't know why, it just gets me into like
The mood.
into the mood.
It sets the scene.
Yeah, but like I used to do like yoga and stuff beforehand sometimes, and I used to do like manifestation, but now like I guess I've been doing it for so long that I'm just like, as soon as I like get ready, because I also wear a wig, so if I sort of put my wig on and like everything, then I'm just like, yeah, I'm in work mode, and I don't
Oh,
really...
yeah, because they have the no unnatural hair color rule.
Yes, yeah, so I'm not allowed to have purple hair at
Really?
this club. Yeah.
I would imagine you would make more money with purple hair if they
Probably
just
would.
let you
Yeah.
be you.
I think it's because they're like, oh, we're more higher end club, and for unnatural
Oh,
hair
they
is not
know.
considered higher end.
Yeah, we look trashy, so no fishnets, no thigh-high boots, no
Really?
boots.
Yeah, and nail polish colours have to be like red, pinks, or nude.
So they've gotten a lot like more relaxed, especially
Probably because they don't have house mums
years.
enforcing it anymore.
Yeah, like it used to be. Did you ever meet Tanya?
Yes.
Yeah, so when Tanya left, it kind of all started going.
Yeah, because she had like very like these are
She's
the
terrifying.
rules. Yeah.
So what was her background?
So she was like the manager of both.
Yeah.
So she was the of three because the honeybees was one. I remember we had like a managers meeting, and like the night before, a dancer had thrown a bottle of champagne at my head. And
Did
like,
it hit you in the head?
No, I fucking ducked. And
Why'd she
then
do it?
lunged over the table to try to attack me.
What happened?
So this was the chick that actually had the headbutts with the other manager where she won out because she was so basically she had gotten like super drunk and actually physically assaulted a customer. So they banned her from drinking. They said no more, and she could only do the job if she was drunk. So
really, right.
she was
Very
really good, but she could only, you could tell she just could not cope doing it sober. And she'd done it for so long too that, like, you know, she'd come in 4 nights a week, and every night she would be
pissed as fuck.
Yeah. So basically they drew the line when she physically assaulted one of her regulars. Mind you, the regular came back and still kept seeing her. Even though she had a punch on with him.
Oh, fuck me.
And so she had to stay sober. So instead of drinking, she did drugs instead. And I said to her, because she was like quite clearly on something, like doing the whole...
Not a fun amount of drunk.
Doing all of that and like...
Cracky.
Yeah. And I was like, what are you on? Like, come on. I can't let you go out there like this. Like, this is clear. Like, you know, that sense. Because I said, I can't let you go out like this. She's like, you're going to stop me making money? I'm like, I cannot let you go out like this. She then picked up the champagne bottle and threw it across the room.
Drink it. She didn't break the fucking drinking rules.
I ducked and it smashed against the wall, and then she lunged over the, like, counter. Yeah. And
you would be like, you know,
that's really bad.
That's fucking bad.
Lunged over the counter and started losing her shit. At that time, like, a manager walked in, just happened, and she was like, what? And so she's grabbing her, holding her back away from me. The next night, we just happened to have, like, the manager's meeting, and, like, we had to obviously bring that up because she had, like, you know, she's really pushing the line, but because she was making so much money, she just kept getting away with everything. And Tanya says, oh, it was a full moon last night. That's probably why.
Full moons, though.
I was like, is it true? I mean, I'm an astrology girly, so whenever like I'm feeling a bit weird, I'm like, I wonder what the moon's doing.
I'm not even into astrology, and the moon, wild stuff. Just weird stuff happens. Like, it's just a weird night whenever it's a full moon.
Fuck, that's crazy. Yeah. I've heard that from police officers as well. They're like, 100%. And these are like, the gent that told me this is not an astrology guy. He is like very straight up and down. And he was like, don't know what it is, but full moon nights, there is data that shows it's crazier out on the street. So I imagine they'd filter on into your camp. So, yeah, fucking hell. So she didn't get in trouble?
No, she still kept working there.
That doesn't surprise me.
All right, so we are back, and we are doing just one last question because my ADHD brain did forget to answer it, and this was one of the most popular questions that got sent through, and that is, what is it like with relationships and stripping?
Well, it really depends. Like, I personally have had good and bad experiences with it. So I actually met one of my exes at the strip club. Like, we worked together. And so obviously, like, the concept of dancing and stripping and stuff was fine. He was fine with it, right? But there was a lot of other red flags that happen when you meet someone in a strip club. So, and then another partner I had, so very commonly guys will be like, yeah, I'm okay with it. Yeah. Until you sort of in that situation, and then they start realizing that they're actually not okay with it, and then by that point they don't know what to do, so then they start trying to like control the girl and be like, oh well, you can't do this anymore because I'm actually feeling certain kinds of ways about it. That one's really common. Like they'll say, I'm good with it, and then once you're invested, oh no, you've got to stop now. Lots of guilt tripping. Like I see that a lot.
I saw that happen time and time again. They would be a customer, they'd come in, they'd meet the girl, they'd be like, yeah, I'm totally cool with it. But then And I think they kind of liked the idea that they were able to land themselves a stripper.
Yeah, everyone wants a stripper.
I think it's the fantasy, and they're not really thinking of the reality, because then when their mates go in and get a dance off her to shit stir or something along that, then it's her fault.
Or they think... So I've had some mates of mine that have dated strippers, and I think in their little man brain psyche, they think... she's going to eventually leave this for me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's not that. It's not that kind of setup. It's not like you're out cheating on this person. It's actually not an emotional thing. It's your job. At the end of the day, it's like getting together with someone and being like, oh, he'll leave his job for me one day. Well, no, that's not necessarily the go there. So,
well, even like, so I had a boyfriend that had an issue of me working there, and I was a house mum.
Yep.
And he was like, don't tell my parents where you work. Just say you work retail. And I was like, but why? It's like literally a job. Like, and even if I was stripping, I would be completely fine with it because I don't have an issue with it. Like, you know, and I would be 100% open because, like, you don't want to be with someone that does. If you can't be open with them, like, you don't want to do that. But I remember he was like, you can't tell my parents where you work. And I was like, but I'm not, like, I'm literally just there. I look after the girls.
Yeah, and you're working a completely legal job.
Yeah, like,
what?
And he would pop in every so often, and I think he didn't 100% believe that I wasn't stripping. Because every
did he get yeeted when he popped in?
Well, because I wasn't like a dancer, so it was fine. And because his family was quite well off, he was quite well off. His family owns the largest privately owned art collection in Australia.
What?
That's well off.
Private jet well off. He
How
would
do you
come,
meet people like this?
I met him at a festival. I literally,
pig,
he was at the time, because I was so young, you don't realise like how toxic the relationship was, and he presented as a very like lovely, nice guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. But
I love going on tangents. ADHD loves it.
yeah, but because I'm young, like I just remember all the girls being like, "Oh my god, like, oh my god, you're dating him," and he was a good-looking dude too. But oh my god, he was a wanker.
They always are.
But yeah, he would pop in every so often, but he would always bring in his mates when he did that. But I 100% believe that he never truly believed I wasn't stripping. And that was his way of like checking in on me. But because his like mates would spend money and stuff like that, like, you know, he was always like allowed in and I wasn't a dancer, so that wasn't an issue. But he would always be like, oh, you know. But he was also the kind of guy that when I left my phone in the room, I'd come back and it would be locked because someone put the wrong password in too many times. So, yeah. But we live and we learn. We live and we learn. But, yeah, it is like a hard one too, because I know a lot of girls, like, they would tell me it would put pressure on the relationships because they would come home and after having a night of having to be on, and, like, having to be, like, this sort of sexual human being, you'd get home and you'd be drained and you wouldn't want to be touched. And then their partners would take that as, you don't want me touching you. And they'd be like, no, I just don't want anyone touching me right now.
Put me in the bathtub. Man.
Yeah,
like, literally.
After having men touch me all night, I don't want to associate that with you. And I don't want to be intimate with you because I've just gotten back.
Yeah, and you're
tired.
exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to?
And a lot of, like, partners would get really, like, sort of hurt. And I can see why, because you'd be like, oh, like, your job is now affecting our intimacy and stuff like that. But it's also, like, 90% of them were already doing the job before they met this person. Yeah. And it's kind of like you do have to take that on board, that if you are dating someone that is in this sort of industry, that is a part of it. But even, like, I remember when I used to work retail and I would spend all day talking to people and being like, hey, how are you? Like, really freaking happy, you know, selling stuff. I would get home and my batteries would be, like, gone. Like, there was no gas left in the tank and I couldn't talk. I was like, I have just spent hours talking to people selling stuff. Like, I remember, like, my boyfriend at the time was, like, trying to come and I was like, I'm drained. And it's like that with every job. So... But yeah, I think it is like that is that sort of double-edged sword when it comes to that.
Yeah, completely. And like one thing that I didn't really realize, and look, now that I'm looking back, like I definitely see what was happening. But like I've had partners like use me for my money because I can get quick, easy money.
Yeah.
So that actually happened in my last relationship. and I was left with nothing. Like, because he ended up like, again, lots of red flags, but like ended up like continually getting fired from his job, and so continually being out of work. And when he was working, he was barely earning enough to even feed himself, let alone pay rent.
What was he doing? What profession?
Oh, I was just working at a bar.
Yeah, right. Bag of shit.
Yeah, but that's also a really common one that girls will get taken advantage of for their money. It's like, oh, well, you get paid, like, you can make a lot of money in one night, so therefore you should have to pay for more, and like all the big upfront costs and stuff like that. So that's one that.
And I think they also get like gaslight into thinking that, well, because of their job, they are less than, so therefore they have to accept a person that's also less than. And it's like, it's not that case, but they just get it hammered into them by their partners that it's like, well, it's your job, like, you know, you should.
Yeah, a lot of guilt tripping, a lot of gaslighting. But again, like, that's just, some people are just shit people.
Yes, shit people are everywhere. Yeah, fucking hell. Jeez, good question.
Yeah.
So that's all we got time for today, legends. We loved having you on, Charlotte.
Thank you.
We are going to get you back to talk about you. Honestly, have such a juxtaposition of a person because you've got the dancer life and you do something else as well, which we'll dig into in another episode. So excited to get you back and learn more about your other skill set. That's Wild Yarns. One last thing, guys. As you saw, we will always reshare your stories. We want to hear your stories. So link up with us on Instagram. We're now on Spotify, which is pretty... I know, it's fucking cool. So come and find us on Spotify. And also, if you're one of those people that like watching us have the Wild Yarns, we are on YouTube. So link up with us on the socials and we want to hear your stories.
And definitely don't forget to go and follow Charlotte. We're going to add all of her details in. She's been an amazing guest, and we definitely want to get some more different guests in to cover different topics because it's always so interesting to hear like different people's perspectives. But yeah, I think this was like a really interesting one. If you're not in this industry, you don't necessarily know how things work. But
I got a real fucking education because despite how much of a seedy, dirty bitch I am, I don't go into see the dancers enough. I'll be in there now. Like, I know the rules.
Yeah, you'll be in there sitting in the tipping chair. I got a $10.
I'll have lobsters out, mate.
Yeah, you're like, I know how this works. Here's a $10.
That's it. I know. I support women in business every day.
Yeah.